Whether you're trying to migrate from Universal Analytics to GA4 or creating a new Google Analytics account from scratch, you'll need to set up required features to get the most out of your new property. Make sure you watch the video till the end to understand each section of your account and property. The first step is to log into a Google Analytics account. Once you're logged in, you will see this screen, Universal Analytics. Let's say you don't have a GA4 account as of now, so you just need to go to this admin section on the bottom left, and then you'll see this screen. So there are two ways to create GA4 account. One is you can click here, create property. The another way is you can click on GA4 setup assistant, and you'll see these options here. Either you can select an existing GA4 property if you already created one of those and just click on connect properties, or you can create a new GA4 property by clicking on get started. All right, so let's click on create property. So now we are here. We just need to add our property name. Let's say I type analytical minds, and we can add the reporting time zone. We can add the currency as well. So, and then we can click on next. That's on the property setup level. About the business, we can select any one of these. What's the category of a business and the business size, as well as some of the other options to select here. But we can skip. This is not mandatory part, so we can just go to the next section. Or if you want to select, you can just select one of these as well. Small, art, entertainment, or any other things. All right, so let's click on create, and now we are here. Then you'll see this specific window, start collecting data, which is the data stream window. You can just go back from this button, and here you can see the admin panel, which is basically the admin panel of GA4. So we have these settings. One thing to note here is, like in the Google Analytics 3, there was 3 columns, account, property, and view. But in the GA4, there's only like 2 columns, account and property. And as of now, there's nothing on the view side. So that's one thing to note here. Coming to the account level, so we have all these settings. At the top, you can see we have admin and user. So you can change a couple of settings here, like what's the default date range of the graphs and the charts. Like just keep it 7 days or 14 days or 28 days or 30 days. And then you can change some email communication from here as well. And then we have these email analytics as well. So if you want to opt in for performance suggestions from the GA side, so you can tick these options as well. Then we need to go to the admin section, and let's understand the admin panel here. First, we have the account settings. If you go here, you can see account ID. You can change the account name from here, and you can change the country of business as well. Then we have data sharing settings. If you want to give permission to the technical support, let's say you find some issues with your account. So whether you want the technical support from the Google side to look into your account and find the solutions to those technical issues, you can give the permission directly from here. And then you have one option to move this account to the trash can, basically delete the account directly from here. The second option is the account access management. Here you can give the permission to a specific user or the user group. So you can just click here on the plus icon and select add users. Just add the email ID of the person that you want the account to be shared. You can also select the standard roles as well. So if you want the person to be at the viewer level or the analyst level, or maybe at the admin level, you can select from here. And one other option that GA4 provides here is the data restrictions, which could be useful. Let's say you don't want the person to look at the revenue metrics or maybe at the cost metrics. So you can restrict this specific data from that specific email ID. Okay, coming back to the admin panel. So here we have all filters now. So all the filters that you applied on the Google Analytics 3 property, you'll see that here if you already have that account. And you can see that here displaying filters for Universal Analytics properties only. So then we have account change history by someone else or by you. You can just look at the data here and see the changes. And then we have this trash can option again here. So that's on the account side, and it's pretty much similar to what we have in Google Analytics 3. The main difference comes at the level of property, which is kind of unique. And there are some additional features in GA4 property section. So let's get started with this one. So first we have setup assistant here. If you click on it, it's basically work like a checklist for you that GA4 provides. Like we have collect website and app data here. Then we have turning on Google signals and setting up conversions. So it's like a checklist to do all the work in the GA4 and link it to Google Ads and work on all these different features to get the most out of our new property. Then we have this property settings on the left, and where we can change the property name and select the industry category, reporting time zones, and currency as well. We also have an option to move this to trash can directly from here. And this is for the property. The earlier we saw in the account setting was for the account level. So this is for the property level. And similarly, we can see here as well, the account level access management was to give the permission for multiple properties. There could be like 3-4 properties that you have in your account. So you can give the permission to multiple properties from this account access management level. But in the property access management, it's basically for this one property only. So you can just give the permission to view or at the admin level for this specific property from here, adding users, adding the email address and selecting their role, and maybe restricting them from cost or revenue metrics. Then we have this option called data streams. So once you click on it, you'll see this window, and you can actually create multiple streams based upon platforms as well. So you can have like one stream for website, one stream for Android app, and another stream for iOS app. So let me click on web, and then I can see this window. I just need to add the website URL here. I can add my website URL and select the stream name. So once this is selected, I can just create the stream from here. But before that, we can see this option called enhanced measurement. This is kind of unique in GA4 because in addition to like page view measurement, this can actually track other interactions as well automatically, like scrolls, outbound clicks, and video engagement and form interactions, etc. And if you click on this gear option, you can go here and deselect or select any of the other options as well. And then one thing to note here is one stream can actually work for multiple websites. So you don't need to like create multiple websites here. So that's why, you can also select like general stream name here and use that stream ID for multiple websites as well. So let's just click on create stream, and then we can see this option where we can see the measurement ID. All right, so this is the web stream details. We have stream name, stream URL, and we can see stream ID and measurement ID. So now we need to use this measurement ID in order to install GA4 to the website. You can see this option here as well, view tag instructions. If you click on it, you can see different ways to install this tag, either manually or using Google Tag Manager. So that could be done as well. Or you can also use a website builder or CMS in this case. All right, so then we have these other options as well. Enhanced measurement, we already saw that. And then we have modify events, create custom events. Basically, it's just an option to create events based upon a specific condition. Let's say if I go here and just type event name contains or equals, let's say page view. So it's going to find the page view event in our website and going to trigger if that condition matches. So yeah, we can build these events directly from here, and it could be like different parameters as well. Like for example, currency contains that, item brand contains that, item ID contains equals that, but the tag will fire or the event will fire when the condition matches, like parameter operator equals this value. So we'll talk about this in the later videos, but this is the option to create these events, and we can modify these events as well once we created the new events. Then we have this option measurement protocol API secrets. It's a bit advanced, so we'll talk about this in the later videos. And then we have Google tags. So this is basically an option to set up the cross-domain tracking, internal traffics. If you have an internal team which is working on your website as well, and if you want to exclude that internal traffic from the reporting, you can do that by configuring these tag settings from here and using these options, but we'll talk about this in the later videos as well. And then we have these tag instructions. So basically just we saw how to install these tags in our website using all the 3 options available. So that's on the web stream details. And then if you go to the event section, so this is basically the same that we just saw, creating events and modifying event directly from this event section. Whether you can go to the data stream and do that event modification or create events, or you can just click on event section here and create events directly from here using the condition and the parameters. And then we have this conversion sections. So here it says purchase marked as conversion by default. You can't really change that, but let's say you create a new event. Let's say you have a subscription business and you want to mark subscription as a purchase as well. So first you need to actually create subscription event here using data layers and all those things that we'll be discussing. Then you can just mark that subscription event as conversions from this last column. Once that event is created in this section, you can just mark it as conversion, and then that specific event, the subscription, will appear in this conversion section. And this is based upon your business, right? You could have a different event as a conversion. So it might not be purchase for you. It might be a lead for you as a conversion. And you can see the performance on the reporting side as well in a different column, like what's the performance of purchase versus what's the performance of subscription versus what's the performance of leads. So once you mark it as conversion in the event section. But yeah, we'll go through this in detail in the upcoming videos. Then we have this option called audiences. So GA4 already defined these audiences here, all users and purchasers, users who have made a purchase, or all the users. But you can define your own audiences as well by clicking on new audience button here based upon the different segments that you can create. There are some suggested audiences as well, like recently active users, non-purchasers, purchasers, or 7-day lapsed customers. 7-day, you can just click on it, and GA4 already created that segment for you, and you can just change the window membership duration from here, or you can change the trigger as well. And then we have this segmentation templates as well. So if you want to build audiences based upon demographics or technology or acquisition, based upon that, you can select, let's say I select acquisition here, then you can select like first user source, it's FB CPC, medium CPC, or you can select different like Google as a source, or campaign, a specific campaign one in your Google ad account, and medium as CPC. Then you can just build the audiences out of that specific campaign and use that audiences for retargeting. So that's the way to define audiences. But again, we'll discuss about this in detail in the next videos when we'll be talking specifically about audiences. And also we have this option called create a custom audience. This is basically from scratch. So you can build like, there's like endless possibility to create audiences. You can just mix and match different things. Let's say you are someone coming from a specific operating system, someone coming from a different region. You can just build the audiences out of that and just push it to different platforms as well. Let's say you build audiences here and you link the Google Ads directly to GA4, and you can use those audience segments in Google Ads and actually retarget those users. So yeah, that's on the audiences side. Then we have this option called custom definitions. Basically, it contains custom dimensions and custom metrics. So to understand custom dimensions, you first need to understand what is dimension. It's basically an attribute of a product or a user, and custom dimension is nothing but an additional attribute that we configure because the default report does not really cover that. For example, here, if you see that these three direct channel grouping is the dimension. So we have these attribute, and against that we have all these metrics. So these are the dimensions which are already available in this report, and these are the metrics which is already there in the GA4. But let's say if you want to cover or add any additional dimension which is not really available here, then you need to define that dimension at the admin section of the GA4, and that's what we call as custom dimensions. And similarly for the metrics as well, we have all these metrics, but if you want to look for something specific which is not really available in GA4, then you can create your own custom metrics and define that in the admin section of the GA4 and use that in this report. So basically we can just go here and click on create custom dimensions. But one thing to understand here is the scope. So scope is nothing but it defines to which like event the dimensions will apply. Let's say if I click on scope here, we have two scope: event scope, user scope. So let's say if you want to create a new custom dimensions, you can create those dimensions for either event or users. In original Universal Analytics, there was actually 4 scope: user, session, hit, and product. But here you have only 2: event and users. So, and it basically defines like where the dimension will apply. So here in GA4, it can only be applied on event or the user. To define these custom dimensions, we need to actually send these dimensions with every event using Google Tag Manager. And once that implementation is done, with the help of data layer, then we can use that dimension here. For example, let's say we have a product. We need to track product name, product category, product variant, and product sizes. So these 4 are actually the dimensions. And when the product is purchased, you also want these details to be fetched in Google Analytics 4. So you need to define these additional parameters in the data layer of, it could be like on your Shopify website or WordPress. And then you can use these parameters or the attributes to define these custom dimensions here. So that's the way to do it. You can, you need to actually pass these information first in the data layer with the help of Tag Manager or directly in the code. And then you can use those parameters or attribute to create these custom dimensions here. And just like custom dimensions, on the custom metric side as well, we can pass this information and calculate some additional metrics which is not really available in GA4 by default, but we can create this event in our data layer and use those custom parameters and create custom metrics here. This metric name must match with the name that we created in our Tag Manager accounts. So that's the way to do it. All right, so then coming to the data settings, we have these 3 options: data collection, data retention, and data filters. So first we have data collections, and here we have Google Signals data collection. So basically when you enable this option, you're actually telling the system to collect cross-device data and enable the remarketing options for the users. But this will only come from the user who have a Google ad account and have enabled the remarketing features. So we can click on it, get started, and click on continue, click on activate. Now the Google will collect information like, demographic, informations like gender and age. And we can see that in the reports as well. So this is now enabled. Then we have this option called granular location and device data collection. And this is on by default. So analytics will try to look at granular location, like city level location data, so that we can see that in our report as well. If you want to learn more about this, you can click on this collect granular location and device data. And then we have this option called advanced settings to allow for ads personalization. This is off by default, by the way. And when we enable this option, we are exporting the Google Analytics audiences and conversions to the linked ad accounts for the purpose of like delivering relevant and personalized experience for the users. And if you click on this gear option, you can see the locations. We can disallow some of these locations as well if you want to control the geolocation. And we can just go here on the acknowledgement section. We need to click on I acknowledge to get the user data collection enabled. And then we have this option called data retention, which is basically the retention period for data you send that is associated with the cookies or advertising identifiers. And if you're working on the exploration section here, not the standard report, because you can see here, these controls don't affect most standard reporting, which is actually based on aggregated data. So this is directly affecting the explore section custom reporting. So whenever you go to the custom report, you'll be able to work with the 2 months data only. But let's say if you want to look for last 1 year data, you can go here and change it to 14 months, but it can't really go beyond 14 months. So if you want to look at the data for the last 2 years, you can't do that. But it's not affecting the standard report. So you can still look at the data for the last 2-3 years in the normal standard reporting. But when you're creating your custom reports, data retention period is either 2 months or 14 months. And this is by default 2 months. So whenever you go to the custom report, you'll only see the data for the last 2 months. So the way to change that is like go to the admin panel, and in the data settings, you'll see this option data retention. Just toggle it to 14 months and look at the data for the last 14 months when you're working on your custom reporting site. And now we have this option called data filters, where we can see the data filters that we have defined in the data stream or with the help of Google Tag Manager, or you can create filters from here as well. So there are 2 filter types. We have developer traffic or we have internal traffic, and you can click on one of them. Let's say we go with internal traffic. So we can see these options here. We can name our data filter here. Then we have filter operations, either to include only or to exclude. And then we have this option called parameter name. If you note here, we can't really edit this part. So this is basically like defined GA4 parameter name. You can't really change that traffic underscore type, but we do have an option to change the parameter value. Then we have this filter state. So whether to keep it active, inactive, or testing phase. So you must test the filter first before setting it to active, because there's no option to delete the filter. So if you go here on the 3 dot, you can see either to activate or deactivate. So once the filter is created, you can't really delete it. You can either deactivate it or just keep it active. So to define a filter with the help of IP addresses, you need to go to the data stream section here. Once you click on it, you will see this data stream. Just click here and then go to this configure tag settings options. Once you click on it, you will see this window. Here you'll find this option called show all. Just click on it and then you can see define internal traffic based upon IP addresses. So you can click on here. Here you need to click on create, and then you will see this window where you can give it a name and just create a condition based upon IP address, whether to contain or IP address equals, and just use the value here, and we can just use it to exclude as a data filter in our GA reports. So that's the way to do it for the internal traffic, and this could be useful when when there are like multiple team members and working on GA properties and you don't want to look at that specific data or information. So that's on the data setting side. And then we have this option called data import, where GA4 allows us to create data source. We can just click here and just import data manually from CSV upload or using SFTP server. Let's say you have a file of non-Google ads products like Facebook ads or different ad platforms, and you want to import the cost data. You can just select the cost data from here and just upload that CSV file, and you can use that CSV file in GA4 and look at that cost metric against different dimensions and with other metrics as well, like revenue, and then calculate ROS CPA directly using this cost data. And you can also give it a name from here, and it could be for other data as well, not just cost. Maybe it could be item data or user data by user ID or user data by client ID. All right, so moving to the reporting identity. This is basically the method analytics uses to associate events with users. Like the user might have interacted with the business on, let's say, iPad and later converted through desktop or mobile app. So there's like a different platform and the different devices involved in this specific user journey. So, and each of these activities is a separate session. So basically to solve this issue, like GA4 uses different methods to unify them into a single cross-device user journey. And it uses these 4 identity options. So we have user ID, Google Signals, device ID, and model data. So if you click on blended, which is like a default option, GA4 creates a single user journey from all the data associated with the same identity and deduplicates users across devices, which makes cross-device tracking easy and data points are like more precise. So basically in the blended option, GA4 uses the user ID, but if there's no user ID collected, then the analytics will use the information from the Google Signals. But let's say if there's no information on user ID or Google Signals, then the analytics will use the device ID. And if no identifier is detected, analytics will use modeling. And then we have this observed. In this, it uses the user ID if it's collected, but if no user ID is collected, then the analytics will use the information again from the Google Signals. And again, if neither user ID nor Google Signal information is available, then analytic will go for device ID. So that's the key difference here. So here it will apply modeling, but in observe it won't be applying modeling. And if you click on this option, show all, there's another option called device based, which only uses the device ID and ignores all the other IDs that are collected. But to get the full benefit of these two options, blended and observed, we need to activate the Google Signals and collect the user IDs. So that's what we did here in the data collection data settings. We enabled the Google Signals and allowed the Google Analytics to use these options. But one thing to note here is when the Google Signal is activated, Analytic will try to collect demographics and interest data whenever it is available. By available, I mean the signed in Google account users. So if there is no signed in users, you might see the data threshold and the exclamation mark on your report sometimes like this here. So this is just a consequence of that, and this just means that your reports are subject to data threshold. All right, so moving to the next option, then we have attribution settings. This is basically the reporting attribution model, which the standard reports are currently using. So this is cross-device data attribution model. So one thing I missed here in the reporting identity, this is basically retroactive. So once you change this, this will also change historical data, not just future data. So that's one thing to remember in this reporting section. All right, so yeah, in this attribution settings, we have this cross-reporting attribution model. And this is basically to calculate the conversion credit in our reports within the analytics properties. So we have all these options available here: last click, time decay, position based, linear, first click, but the recommended one is data driven. And I think you should keep this recommended data driven attribution model only in the account. So yeah, these are all the reporting attribution model. And you can also see here, like changing the attribution model will apply to both historical and future data. So once you change this to last click or first click, this will change the data on the historical date as well. So let's keep it to data driven model. And then we have the look back window. This will only apply going forward, not to the historical data. And we can see the changes in the reports once we change this settings. So the GA4 is recommending 30 days for acquisition conversion events and 90 days for all other conversion events. So what this means here is, let's say you started an ad on 1st of January and someone actually interacted with the business and landed to the website on 1st of Jan, but didn't purchase the product. But let's say user is still on a journey and interacting with different platforms like Instagram or Google. And then after 30 days, the user has purchased a product. So there's a time duration of 30 days that the user took to make that purchase. So basically here in the look back window, you're just looking at that time period. Here you can see the look back window determines how far back in time a touch point is eligible for attribution credit. And that's where the data driven model would make more sense as well. Let's say at the very first time, Facebook ad actually got us the user to the website, but the Google ad was the last interaction of that user. So the data driven model will look at all the touch points and will decide which specific channel actually made the most impact and just credit the specific conversion to that channel. So that's where the role of look back window and the reporting attribution model comes into the picture. So you can just keep it like as it is and click on save. And now we can move to the property change history section. So this is basically the changes that you made. You can just see here, if you or any of your colleague made the changes, you can have a look here and see what really changed on that specific time. And then we have data deletion request. So let's say you have a lot of details about that specific visitor and you want that detail to be deleted. So you can just schedule a data deletion request. Just click here and just delete all the parameters on all events or a specific user properties, or you can just delete registered parameters, selected registered parameters from here and schedule the request, and then the GA team will make that action. And then we have this option called debug view. So this was originally in configure settings here, but now they have just recently moved it here, and this settings as well, this conversion events, they were all in the configure options here, but they recently moved everything to this property section. So as the name says, this is just for the testing purposes. So let's say we have a developer who's working on a specific tag and just testing, let's say purchase conversion, if it's firing correctly or not, then we just need to enable the development device. Let's say you're working on Google Tag Manager, so you can just go to the preview mode of the Google Tag Manager and actually do the test conversion on your website. Then you can start seeing the purchase conversion user details here and all the conversion events and hits that's happening on the websites, and then look at the data. And you can also see the parameters, all the things that are firing correctly or not. Let's say you are testing the purchase, you can also look at the parameters like product name, product variant, and product prices, all the other things directly from here. So this is just a way to debug events and test things if it's working correctly or not. But first you need to enable the debug mode on your development devices or on the Google Tag Manager. All right, so now we have the product links. So these are some of the options where you can link different products to GA4. Just click on link here, just select the Google Ads directly from here, and you can just, select from here and click on confirm, and then it will be done. And similarly, we have these other options to link different Google products with GA4, like Search Console, Optimize, and Data Studio, and BigQuery, and then we have Ads Manager and these as well. And then we have this Analytics Intelligence Search History. This basically uses this search history here within analytics to improve searches and recommendations. So for example, if I click here, I can see like this is what I recently viewed. And based upon that, Analytics Intelligence is suggesting me these searches like revenue by device this year, what are my top countries by revenue, and what are my best selling products. So you can just have a look here at the browsing data and all the search history, Analytics Intelligence search history, and you can just select that, delete specific queries, or just have a look what's really happened in the past. So yeah, that's on the GA4 property side. And in the upcoming videos, we'll be looking into these sections and walk through the dashboards to get you the better idea of GA4 platform.